Now we'll come to the topics of oceans energy. See, ocean is a vast reservoir of energy. We can use waves of the ocean, surface wave which move there. It has a mechanical force, mechanical energy which can move a kind of a wobbling kind of platform with some kind of liquid and the piston type of area where the it can rotate the kind of a lever and the piston, and from mechanical it can go to electrical, right? Then there is another way called ocean current energy. Large current like equatorial current, warm hot current, or cold current from polar areas, which is below the surface of the sea. This can we can have submerged turbine, just opposite upturn turbine, which can rotate with the current, and we can generate electricity there. Then comes the tidal power. The most viable or commercially used worldwide is a tidal power plant, which we use the low tide and high tide of oceans on the estuary where the river meets the sea, and we can build like a tidal barrage similar to a river valley project, where water can go inside the barrage and can come out of the barrage and can move a turbine to generate electricity. La Rance in the Rance River in France is the oldest such tidal power plant in the world. Now it is the second highest power producing tidal power plant of the world, where it generates 240 megawatt. Now the top and the first ranking tidal power plant in the world is in the South Korea, is on built on the lagoon or the lake called Lake Sihwa. Now in Gujarat, in India, Gujarat Renewable Energy Development Authority with a company called Atlantis from UK have signed a memorandum of understanding to build initially 50 megawatt tidal power plant in Gujarat. But still, this project is still under the ongoing part of it, right? So India has a tremendous capacity to go for tidal power in Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Khambat in Gujarat, and around 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt in Bay of Bengal, Sundarban Delta. But most potential lies on the western side, that is on the Gujarat side, right? So tidal is a viable one, and it requires regular interval of high tide and low tide, and there has to be a difference between the tides, low tide and high tide, of at least 6 meters there. So the estuary becomes very important where tidal barrage is constructed. Then, in terms of ocean wind energy, like offshore wind farm on the turbine kept on the sea, which can on ocean, which can move and generate electricity. So they're different form. At the same time, now a very revolutionary concept has come up in terms of ocean energy called OTEC power plant, ocean thermal energy conversion or ocean thermal electric conversion uh, power plant, where we can generate from the temperature difference between the hot surface water and cold deep water. 1,000 meter depth of the ocean, the water temperature goes to 4 degrees Celsius. So that can temperature difference can help in making a volatile liquid compound, like for example substance like ammonia, to convert into gas and run a turbine and can condense back to the again ammonia can be pumped back. So there's a different designs have been now tried out. And in India, for ocean-based technology, we have an organization called NIOT, National Institute of Ocean Technology, in Chennai under Ministry of Earth Sciences, has worked to develop OTEC-based technology for water purification desalination. That is to provide drinking water in Lakshadweep, Kavaratti, where Dr. Harshvardhan, Science Tech Minister and Earth Science Minister, inaugurated such a low temperature thermal desalination plant, LTTD plant in Kavaratti based on OT technology. Now, these are the current aspect where UPSC can ask question. These are very potential areas. So let's see this documentary, which will give you more idea on the ocean forms of energy, right? So we'll watch this documentary.
Energy from oceans. There are many forms of ocean energy. Energy from sea waves. The kinetic energy possessed by the sea waves moving at great speed can be used to rotate turbines continuously, and the generators connected to these turbines produce electrical energy. The strength of electricity depends on the availability of continuous high energy waves. Tidal energy. Sea level rises and lowers due to high tide and low tide. Water flows to a reservoir during high tide. During low tide, this water flows out from the reservoir through a pipe. This flowing water is used to turn a turbine to produce electricity. Ocean thermal energy. The difference in temperature between warm surface water heated by the sun and the cold water at the ocean depth is another form in which solar energy becomes available from oceans. This is known as ocean thermal energy. The devices used to harness the ocean thermal energy are called ocean thermal energy conversion power plants. A difference of temperature of 20 degrees Celsius is available between surface water and water at depth up to 1000 meters. In this system, warm surface water is utilized to boil a liquid like ammonia or chlorofluorocarbon CFC. These vapors are used to drive the turbine of an electric generator to produce electricity. These can be operated throughout the year and 24 hours a day.
So it is giving you the idea about OTEC, but chlorofluorocarbon as a freon, which we that is a greenhouse gas. It will affect the in terms of pollution at the same time, global warming, climate change. Liquid ammonia or liquid propane can be a good substance which can be used in OTEC power plant. So now let's look into this. This is what you see tidal power plant, which is Rance river in France. So Laran's tidal power plant looks like this one. So it's almost like a road which connect from one end of the river to the another end across the ocean, and it is a 240 megawatt power plant generation. So now if you look at tidal power plant, so tide waves, is because of the gravitational attraction of moon, which pull the oceans surface water. That's what the rise and the fall of water comes into that. So the force and directional movement of tidal power are harnessed through hydroelectric pumps, which then existing electric grids can be connected to that and can be given the power. So when the high tide comes, the water from the ocean enter into the river, and that move the turbine, right? And when the low tide comes, the water from the river goes to the ocean, and again it can rotate the turbine. What you can see in the photograph there. It's just a very simple concept, similar to hydropower plant, tidal power plant works. And I've said Gujarat has the potential to go for tidal power plant, and Gujarat state is trying to develop and build such a tidal power plant. Now, OTA technology, what you have seen in the documentary. So, what is the idea here that the surface water and the deep ocean water, 1000 meter or 1 kilometer deep into the ocean, it creates a difference of 20 degrees Celsius. And that difference can be used to convert a volatile liquid substance like ammonia into gas to move the turbine. What you see in the diagram here to generate electricity, and then ammonia gas can be condensed back to the liquid ammonia with the help of cold sea water taken from 1000-meter depth, and again it can be pumped back. Liquid ammonia can be pumped back again to the evaporator, where with the warm surface water again ammonia will become the vapor, ammonia vapor. So this is the idea behind the OTEC technology, which you can see in the diagram perspective, and you can get question in the examination. Now coming to the geothermal power generation, like Iceland is a country which depend on geothermal power, and it is a advantage of Iceland because there are number of geothermal sites are there. Iceland has the volcanic area, so the steam from the surface comes out, the thermal vents are there, hot geysers are there, and that hot water from the ground can be taken, or water can be passed through the under the earth to boil into steam, and that steam will move the turbine to generate electricity. India also has a number of geothermal sites. Geological Survey of India has found out more than 300 such hot geysers, hot sulfur springs, and geothermal sites in India. Prominent ones are Manikaran in Himachal Pradesh, that is located in Kullu Manali area. Then in Puga Valley in Ladakh. Then Parvati Basin in Punjab, area, then Badrinath, Tapovan in Uttarakhand, Surajkund in Jharkhand. Right, these are the sites where we can go for geothermal power generation. You all know that geothermal energy, the hot water or hot stream coming from the earth, has been used by mankind for a long time. Ancient Greeks, Romans, Indians, they used the geothermal energy for the like hot water geyser for bathing purpose, sulfur spring for medicinal purpose of treatment of skin disorders. Today we can use the such hot water for the boil for cooking purpose. We can cook rice or boil egg, or we can use for interior home or house heating by circulating the hot water through pipes inside the house, or we can pass the hot water through the pipe through a greenhouse like glass chamber based greenhouse, and we can go for greenhouse cultivation. So there are multiple use of such hot water from geysers. But now geothermal power generation, it has the following concept. If you see the geothermal power plant concept, so what is done there is that in geothermal power plant, hot water is pumped um, through a part of a inside the earth. Like you will see like this one. I'll just point with this. Let's say there is a water which is passed there, injected through a well. Now here you have a hot rocks or magma, which can have temperature up to 300 degrees centigrade or more than that. So as the water goes, it mixes and converts to water in steam mixture. Now through the another pipe, what happens? The steam and the hot water comes out. The hot water is separated, and the hot water again passed through the cooling tower, and the cool and the normal again cold water is passed into the under the earth, where the steam is allowed to pass through the turbine and it generate electricity, and again it is condensed. So this is called geothermal well. It's become like a reservoir where water and steam can be generated. And underneath you have a hot rocks or magma which help in converting water into steam. So this is the idea behind geothermal power plant. Now I'm coming to one another very important area where UPSC can ask question, that is a ground source heat pump GSSP. It has been done in USA there and Europe. They use the ground source heat pump. Even India has a potential to use ground source heat pump. Now understand the concept. What is ground source heat pump? Under the earth, if you go to let's say 20 meter bottom of the earth, there the temperature remains almost constant and comparable to the temperature of the air which is outside there. Now let's say for example here, if we make a geothermal heat pump under the earth, what will happen? Let's consider in the winter time where the temperature is very very low outside, maybe 0 degrees centigrade or less than 0 degrees centigrade. But under the earth, the temperature will be around 10 to 15 degrees centigrade. It will be warm. So what we can do through the pump is that we can pass the cold water as it go into the earth where you have temperature 15 degree to 18 degrees Celsius. The heat will be lost from the pipe, so the earth will become like a sink, right? No, sorry. Here, what will happen? As you pass the cold water into the pipe, so what will happen there? The cold water is very cold, and under the earth, the temperature is 15 degrees Celsius, 18 degrees Celsius. So it will absorb the heat from the inner side of the earth, where temperature 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, and this cold water, after absorbing, will become a warm water, hot water. So in the winter time, the house can get the hot water. So that means the ground or the earth act as the heat source. What it act as a heat source. The reverse will happen in the summers. What happens in summer when outside temperature is higher? Let's say 24 degrees Celsius, 35 degrees Celsius. Inside the earth, the temperature is relatively constant, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. Outside temperature, imagine you have 30 degrees Celsius. Inside you have 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. So when you pass the warm water, so it as it goes there, inside the temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. So what will happen? The pipe, the hot water will lose heat and then become cold, and it can be supplied to the cold water to the household. That means the ground or the earth act as a heat sink. It loses the heat energy, heat sink. So it can be reversal based on season, where there is a constant temperature under the earth around let's say 20 meter deep into the earth, where temperature 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. So it can become like a kind of source of heat or sink of the heat. The source of heat becomes in the winter time, sink of the heat becomes in the summertime, right? So this is another thing where MNRE, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, is trying to implement in the country. Now coming to fuel cell technology. I've already mentioned that hydrogen economy is a very important economy, and in future we'll use hydrogen different form. We can mix hydrogen with CNG and can use in vehicles, right? Like in bus or car, where we use petrol CNG. And this will the hydrogen can be blended up to 40-45%. But in India we are right now using 20%, one fifth of the volume. So there, hydrogen burns very efficiently. It has a high heat content, and at the same time, the carbon emission will come down, right? But what is fuel cell? A fuel cell is a battery where you have cathode and anode, negatively negative cathode and positively anode. So it with the help of electrolyte chemical, the charge can move and can be conduct the electricity. So like lithium ion batteries for storage, and again we can recharge it again and again, right? Mobile phone, laptop, and all. So when you talk about fuel cell battery, we are using today battery rickshaw, e-rickshaw or what battery rickshaw. What happens with the battery? It works there. The electricity supply and the rickshaw works. In the night time, it can be plugged inside the socket and can the battery can be charged. So the next day again we can use it there. So there that part. But when you talk about hydrogen fuel cell, so here we use hydrogen and oxygen. So there is a membrane, proton based proton. You know, when hydrogen, when you remove the electron, it becomes positively charged proton. So in hydrogen fuel cell, electricity is created by combining hydrogen and oxygen without combustion. We don't burn hydrogen without combustion. Where in hydrogen CNG we are burning it. Here we don't burn it. We don't combust it. Right. So without combustion, hydrogen and oxygen are combined. The only end product here is the water and the heat. Right. So what happens there? There's a electrochemical membrane where the proton is generated, and that movement of proton is a charge movement and it generates electricity. So many cells can be combined together, hydrogen fuel cell, to make a stack, and then it can be used in the power module which powers the minibus, or even hydrogen fuel cell can power the car, like when electric cars in the future. At the same time, even for train also, like recently Germany becomes the first country in the world to have a passenger train running with a speed of 140 km per hour based on hydrogen fuel cell. The company which has developed this train is called Alstom, and the name of the train in Germany, the name of the train is Coradia Island, right? So hydrogen fuel cell, further one. So how would we generate hydrogen? Now another question comes. The hydrogen fuel cell require hydrogen. Oxygen we can get from air, but how would we go get the hydrogen? So there's a what we can do. We can use a process of electrolysis. Now what is electrolysis? That when we pass current, then with current, electric current, water can split into oxygen and hydrogen, H plus ion and oxygen there. Now comes the question, from where we'll get the electricity to split water H2O into H plus and OH minus ion, that through the process electrolysis. So that electricity we can get from wind farm or solar power. Like India is having a renewable program, solar parks are being set up. We already have a wind power program successfully going in India. The wind farm, from there we can get electricity, and we can have electrolysis cell where it can break the water into H plus ion and OH minus, and that can go to the fuel cell and can get and power up there. Tesla has been developing those kind of battery storage system there, right? So hydrogen fuel cell is like this one: hydrogen and oxygen through the membrane. The water will be out, and it will convert to electricity, right? Which can come out in that case. So now this Coradia Island is the first passenger train in Germany based on hydrogen fuel cell technology. So you'll watch this video to understand how this train works, right? So I'll play this documentary. Let's watch this documentary.
The environment is one of today's main issues, with all societies being concerned. Alstom has for years taken part in the environmentally responsible approach of developing comprehensive, non-polluting solutions for the sector of rail transport. Today, rail operators mostly use diesel trains to operate passenger service on non-electrified networks. Now, Alstom offers a CO2 emission-free regional train and a silent alternative, Coradia iLint. Powered by a hydrogen fuel cell, its only emission is steam of water and condensed water, while it operates with the lowest noise levels. Alstom is one of the first manufacturers worldwide to develop a passenger train based on such technology. Thanks to this technology, Coradia iLint enables sustainable train operation while its performance matches that of regular regional trains. Coradia iLint is special for its combination of different innovative elements: a clean energy conversion, a flexible energy storage capacity, and smart management of the traction power and remaining energy. The principle relies on a fuel cell, which produces the electric power. It's the core of the system. The fuel cell is supplied with hydrogen on demand. By combination of hydrogen with oxygen from ambient air inside, the fuel cell produces the electric energy needed to supply the vehicle. The efficiency of the system also relies on the storage of energy in high-performance lithium-ion batteries. They accumulate the energy not immediately used in order to later supply it as needed. This results in a better efficiency of the fuel consumption. Alstom has also designed a smart power and energy management system in order to instantaneously deliver power wherever needed in the train, resulting in greater independence of the vehicle. Since the electrical energy produced by fuel cell or recovered from braking is intelligently managed, Coradia iLint matches the range and performance of similar conventional regional trains, but with nearly no impact on the environment. To make the deployment of the Coradia iLint as easy as possible for operators, Alstom provides a complete offer consisting of the train itself, its maintenance, but also the whole hydrogen infrastructure out of one hand. Alstom develops Coradia iLint in partnership with renowned German and Canadian companies boasting many years of experience in the fields of hydrogen energy and batteries. This synergy around Coradia iLint enables Alstom to introduce this technological breakthrough in the near future. As early as 2018, the first Coradia iLint would be effectively in service in Germany. Today, with Coradia iLint, Alstom is taking a considerable step towards the rail of tomorrow.
See, Alstom has already built this one. Is a old video, and in 2018, which is said is when Germany will have that, it has been already been developed and implemented in Germany. So Coradia Island is in the news for the last 2 years, and it can be a question in the exam. So that's what from current affairs I have given you this idea of hydrogen fuel cell based passenger train in Germany.